In the name of the Holy and Risen One. Amen. Amen. Please be seated. The great physicist Albert Einstein once said, "There are two ways to see the world, as if everything is a miracle and as if nothing is a miracle." Which camp do you fall into now that we find ourselves on the other side of Easter? Do you find yourself breathing a little sigh of relief that the rhythm of church life can go back to normal? The intensity of the Holy Week and Easter services is over. Maybe that's why they call the Sunday after Easter a low Sunday. Perhaps it's time to relax, take a little break from all of last week's miracles. After all, if we're honest and rational thinking, the Easter story is a bit far-fetched. It's symbolic, right? I mean, dead people returning to life and walking around among us, having us touch the wounds. This just really isn't something that any of us has experienced. We are right to have our doubts, right? Or maybe, since we've all come back for more this Sunday, maybe we're a little bit more like the disciples who huddled together in the upper room in those days after Jesus hung on the cross. The excited and joyous crowd that ushered Jesus into Jerusalem just a short time ago has dispersed. The Lord has been crucified and buried. And yet, some claim now to have seen him. Among some of the disciples, there is a foggy memory that's beginning to stir in their minds. They're thinking, during all that time we were with him, hearing him teach in the crowds and in the temples, hearing him talk privately to us. Didn't we hear Jesus tell us that he would die and after 3 days rise again? Who can believe it? Without proof, aren't we right to have doubt? Or do our doubts about things unrational and unbelievable cause us to feel a little uneasy about our faith? I would like to invite us to ponder these questions by taking a closer look at the images in our bulletin this morning. Please take a look at the image on the cover of your bulletin. This is called The Incredulity of St. Thomas, and it depicts the very moment when Jesus guides Thomas's finger into the wound on his side where it was pierced. Thomas, one of the 12, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see the mark and put my finger in his side, I will not believe." And a week later, his disciples were again in the house, and Thomas was with them that time. And although the doors were shut, Jesus came and stood among them. And he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here, reach out your hand, and put it in my side. Do not doubt, but believe." What we see on the cover of our bulletin is the very moment before he is about to exclaim, "My Lord and my God, I believe." Now, during that week after the resurrection, Jesus was appearing to different people and in different places. And as you might expect, people had different responses. Please turn to page 14 in your bulletin. This is the kitchen maid with the supper at Emmaus. We see a young kitchen servant standing stock still. We can almost see that she is holding her breath as Jesus and two followers sit at the table in the background. Now, on that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. And while they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. As they came near the village, he walked ahead as if he were going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening, and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. And as they sat down at the table, the young servant girl in the kitchen listens, holding her breath. Surely that voice is his, the one who had looked at her once across the crowd as no one had ever looked at her. Had he seen her? Had he spoken as if to her? Surely those hands were his, taking the platter of bread from her just now. Hands he'd laid on the dying and made them well. Surely that face. The man they'd crucified for sedition and blasphemy, the man whose body disappeared from its tomb, the man it was rumored now some women had seen alive. Those who had brought this stranger home to their table don't recognize yet with whom they sit. But she in the kitchen, absently touching the wine jug she's to take in, a young black servant intently listening, swings around and sees the light around him and is sure. In the two moments that are captured in these two images, we see divine revelation to one who doubts and demands proof, that is Thomas, and to one who has already seen and believed within her very being, the servant girl in the kitchen, who needed no proof, but knew by the sound of his voice and the look in his eye, the holiness in his hands, and the light that surrounded him. The result is the same for both. They too have now seen the risen Lord. There is no doubt. Are you like Thomas? Or are you like the servant girl in the kitchen? I don't believe one is better than the other, but only different and holy in their own ways. Those among us, like the servant girl, who know Jesus deeply and recognize him when he sits down at the table with them, as he does whenever two or more are gathered. For those among us who find encounters like this as breathless and amazing as that young girl did, say amen. Be grateful and cherish your sense of awe in the mystery of the Incarnation. Those among us who are more like Thomas, those who have our doubts and are unconvinced of the unseen and the unbelievable without having proof, well, we are in good company. The Archbishop of Canterbury, Pope Francis, and many, many other religious leaders have stated their doubts. And they have said that far from being an obstacle to faith, doubt is actually a healthy element of faith. It is a sign that we want to be in relationship with God and are curious about the mystery of it all. One of my close spiritual guides has said that doubt is a sacrament, an outward and expressed sign of the inward and invisible grace that is given to us by God. It is unseen and cannot be proven in a rational manner. But when we experience it, we know without a doubt that it is real. So be attentive. Look for holy moments when you are presented with an opportunity like Thomas to touch the incarnate Christ. He is present in all of us. Look for holy moments when you find yourself in a place like the young kitchen maid, of recognizing Christ just a few feet away from you. By the gentle, healing hands and the lightness of soul that another person near you radiates. These are holy moments. The Irish call them thin places, when we find the curtain torn open between the present, rational, material world and the mystery of the unprovable, the unimaginable, and undeniable presence of the risen Jesus. These are moments before us every day when we too can say, "My Lord and my God." Amen.
Amen.